Hi guys, how you doing? My name's Ben. I'm a plumbing tutor assessor at the college, and this is just a little video on how to change a tap washer. If you're anything like me, the sound of a dripping tap drives you nuts. Or if you're on a water meter, it's one of those jobs you want to get done relatively quickly because it's going to cost you a fortune. So it's quite a straightforward job to do, doesn't take too long, you don't need many tools to do it, and it will save you a fortune on getting that plumber out. So before we get started, you need to know that this is for a full turn tap. If you've got a quarter turn tap or a lever mixer tap, this isn't the video for you, but there are some videos online that will show you how that's done. So before we get started, the tools you're going to need is an adjustable spanner, a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, Stanley knife, and a large set of pliers will come in handy as well. And also, which will save you a bit of time, if you've got, like I have, a multiple tap washer kit you could buy beforehand in B&Q or Screwfix. It's really cheap and it's a great thing to have in the house, and you're likely to have the right size washer in there. Failing that, you're going to have to obviously safely isolate the tap, remove the washer, take it to a shop so you can get the right size. But I would recommend getting a multiple pack in the house, always handy to have. So that being said, if you're ready to get going, the first thing to do is to isolate the water supply. Now I'm lucky enough with this tap that I've got an isolation valve behind the basin, so I'm able to turn that off by turning the head 90 degrees to the direction of flow, which is going through the pipe. Failing that, if you haven't got an isolation valve, the next thing you could do is turn the water off inside the property on your stop tap. They're usually located sometimes underneath the kitchen sink, maybe by the front of the property or underneath the stairs. Failing that, if you can't locate your stop tap or it's too hard to turn off, then you could, as a last resort, isolate from the street. So if you're all isolated, always remember before you start the job, make sure you open up the tap to make sure that it is isolated, because sometimes valves can fail, so you don't want to get a nasty surprise when you take that tap head off. Okay, if we're ready to get going, like I said, just make sure that the tap is safely isolated and make sure the tap's fully open and there's no more water coming out. Little tip before we get going, make sure you've got the plug in the basin, because the last thing you want is any little parts going down into your bottle trap, which is be a bit of a pain to get hold of once it's in there. So that being said, first things first, I'm going to get this cap off the top of the tap, and I'm going to use a Stanley blade for this. And if you just get the edge of the blade, being careful when you do it, just in a little gap there, you can pop the head off and that'll just come off like that. Then you're going to see a little screw in the centre of the tap, and that's what's holding the tap head to the gland. So I'm going to get my Phillips screwdriver and turning it to the left, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, we're going to undo that screw all the way, and I can just pick that screw off then. So once the screw's out, next thing we do is actually pull the tap head directly upwards and it will come off the gland. Sometimes a little bit stiff, but that's off there. So this is the gland body where the washer is located inside. Now, if you've got an older tap, undoing this gland body might be quite difficult because they can become scaled and get really tight. So I'll show you a tip on how to do that. But firstly, to remove the gland body, you need to get your adjustable spanner on the top of the gland here. And like I said before, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, we're going to be turning that anti-clockwise to loosen the gland body. Now, if you can try doing it by holding the tap with one hand and loosening it with the other, but if it is really stiff, if you get some protection on the tap like a cloth, get your pliers on the body of the tap like that. Whoops, slipped off there. Next thing you can do then is moving it to the left like that, and you'll start to see that valve body turning like that and loosening. Once you've done it a few times, you can do the rest with your fingers. Remove that there, and this tap gland will just pop off, and there we go, and there we have it. So if we have a look at the washer, we'll see, if you have a good look there, there's a little split in the washer, and they do degrade over time, and that's what's causing our drip. Now once you've got the tap gland in your hand, you'll notice there's a little retaining nut just here. So if you get your adjustable spanner, pop it over the end, and again to the left, turn it a couple of times, and that will just come off, and then you'll be able to remove that tap washer just like that, and we'll get the correct one now to put back in, and we'll reassemble the tap. Okay, so I've got my replacement washer here. I'm just going to pop that in there, make sure it seats nicely, and it's there we go. There we are, you know that's sitting in there well. I'm going to put that retaining nut on there, just screw it into my fingers, and I'll just tighten the last bit up with the spanner. And that should do it. Once we've located that washer, put it back in nicely, we're going to put the gland back in, turning it to the right with our fingers, and once you can't do it anymore with your fingers, then we'll just finish it off with the spanner. Should be able just to hold the tap by this point. Pop that spanner, remember we're going to be tightening it now, so we're going to bring it round to the right clockwise and make sure it's nice and tight, and there we go. What we'll do next, pop the tap head back on and replacing your washers. And the screw goes in there. Screw that all the way home. Now, before you put the cap on, it might be worth actually putting on the water supply to test the tap. So turn the tap off, and then what we'll do, we'll open up the water supply. Okay, and the water's on. I'm just going to test that tap now. Going to get a little bit of brown water that's just coming off the body of the valve. Turn it off. No more drips. Fantastic. Put the cap on. That'll just pop into place. There we go. All sorted. So that's it, all done. I hope you found that video of use and it's given you the confidence to carry out your own tap washer repair. One thing I would say is if you are isolating the water supply from a stop tap or out on the street and you don't have the luxury of an isolation valve behind the tap or next to the tap, I would recommend getting someone else in the house to turn the water on slowly while you're standing next to the tap. Last thing you want is to be running in up the stairs, having turned the water on and realise you've still got a couple of problems. So that being said, I hope you found it of use, and good luck with the job. Take care. Bye now.